Today we are going to learn about fundamentals of UI architecture. You know how to write JavaScript, React, HTML, CSS. You can create complete project from scratch. But as your project grows, you create more components from 10 to 100 components or 500 components. Your code start getting messy. It becomes very difficult to add new feature or update existing feature. And if there is a bug, it becomes very difficult to find and fix the bug. But if you have a proper UI architecture for your project, you will feel how easy it becomes to add new feature or fix any bug or remove existing functionality or update it. It will become very easy once you have the better UI architecture. In this course, we are going to create this simple project. We have three cards. We have here counter, the selected cards, and we have options to change the theme. We can change light to dark, midnight or sepia. We have different options, and if I refresh the page, it stays same. We have the sepia selected. On the refresh, it stays same. And if you have dark theme in your system, this project will identify what theme you have and it will apply based on your system theme. It's light theme or dark theme. It will apply that automatically. And if you refresh it, it will stay same. So this is what we are going to build in this project. You can download the source code. And once you download the source code, you will see we have episode wise code from episode 1 to episode 10. And how to run this project? Open the terminal. And first thing we need to install the dependencies. Why we have dependencies? Because we are using React. So we need to install required dependency to run our React app. So first do the npm install. It will install all the dependencies. Once this is done, you will type npm run episode 01 and you can find all the script in package.json. You can run any episode from episode 1 to episode 10. If you want to run episode 1, you type episode 1. If you want to run episode 7, type episode 7, hit enter, and it will open that particular episode in the browser. So this is our episode 7, where we will implement this light and dark theme. So this is what we are building in this course, and this is the source code. In next episode, we will start from the episode 0, where we will have the very bad code, but in each episode, we will start improving it, and by end of episode 10, you will have production ready UI architecture. I'll see you in episode 1. Into the DOM, and we have app.jsx which holds our complete app, and the card.jsx file where we have this card. So if you look at the card.jsx, we have all the code inside single file, and to run this episode 1, just type npm run episode 1 and it will be up and running in your browser on this port. Now look at the card.jsx file. We have everything in just single file. We have the inline CSS, we have hard-coded values for colors and for the padding or border radius. We have inline event handlers and everything in just single file. Now this code is around 114 lines, but imagine if your card grows and it becomes 500 of lines. It will become very messy to change, update or find a bug and fix it. But if you look at it, we start with the color. So you see we have the hard-coded values in here. Let's say you have a designer and designer says, can we change this green color to blue? And if you search for it, it has 4 appearance in this card.jsx file. Only card has 4 times of this same color. If you have one component, it is fine. You can just go and replace it. But imagine you have 100 or 200 or 500 components. Then it will become a very difficult task to find and replace all the colors, and it will take a lot of time. And there are chances that you will miss something and it will create a bug for your UI. We have solution for CSS. This is where we implement design tokens, and the design tokens will help us to remove this dependency on the hard-coded values. So in next video, or first thing, we will implement design tokens to remove the hard-coded values and create a very variable things So we can easily implement any CSS or change any value for our CSS in our entire project with just one change. So I see you in episode 2. Welcome to episode 2. Open episode 2 code and you will see that we have one extra file, tokens.css. Open it. You will see we have defined some variables with some values. We have variables for color, spacing, border radius, font size, font weight and shadow. In CSS we can define the variables. To define the variable we start with double hyphen followed by the name of variable. So we have double hyphen then variable name color primary. Now if you check the card.jsx, we have replaced all the hard-coded values with CSS variable. Now if your designer says, hey, I want to change this green color to blue color, what you do? You open the tokens.css and you change color to blue. You save it and you will see the color immediately changes. This is the power of CSS variables, and we call CSS variable design tokens. They are the single source of our CSS. They are single source of truth where we keep all the values. So this is how you define a CSS variable, and this is what we call design tokens. Now this is the very basic implementation, and this basic implementation will help us to implement multi-theming in our project. So what you learn how to create the CSS variables, and we call them design tokens. And once they are defined, you can use them anywhere in your app using this var keyword with the parentheses, and inside that we add our CSS variable. This is how you use it. Once you start using this, you will never go back to the hard-coded values. And the power of this, you just change value at one place and it will reflect everywhere in your app. So we have implemented the design tokens and our card is working fine. But if you look at it, we have all the values hard-coded. In next episode, we are going to implement BEM and we'll create a class names using the BEM convention. I see you in episode 3. Welcome back to episode 3. Today we will implement CSS classes using BEM. So what is a BEM? If you open the episode 3 source code, you will see we have one more file, card.css. Open this and you will find we have class names, the card, then we have the card -- selected, card __ page, title, description, we have the footer, we have the price, button and button hover. So what is the BEM? BEM is a convention to create classes for CSS. And if you have defined, like you have already defined the variables in the JavaScript or any other language, and you know how difficult it is to come up with a unique name. But using the BEM, the block element modifier convention, we can create unique name all the time easily. So BEM stands for block element modifier. And what is the block? This card is a block, and inside it we have elements. So this card contains elements, like this title is an element, the price, the button, this page, this description, all they are elements of this card. So card is a block. Inside it we have the elements, and the modifier. A modifier is we have the card. If we want to select the card, let's say if I click on this card, I want to apply border and the background color. So I simply add a modifier to the card and I define my CSS there. So this is how we define CSS variables using the BEM. So block, element and modifier. Remember these three things. Block is the main component. Elements are part of that component, and modifier is a modifier which can just add few things or few CSS to the same component, but some modifying the, like if I click on this, it becomes a green border or green background, then we use the modifier. So BEM is nothing but a CSS naming convention. It makes easier for us to create class names. And this BEM is used by multinational companies. You will see all the companies are using this. because it makes very easy to create class names, and it helps you to identify the problem. So let's say you want to change this button, and if you don't like, you just directly import this button somewhere, and the card does not have the title or the price. You check, you inspect the button, you see the card button, and you immediately see that this button is not a standalone button. This button belongs to the card, because you see the card is our block, and let me refresh it. So card is our block, and the element, you if you see the underscore, it means this button is an element of card. So this is how you easily identify it. Then you just go to the card component and you check where is the button, you find the button, and then you update the CSS. So this is how easy it becomes for you to identify the problem and fix it. So this is our BEM, but you still see we have all the files in just single folder. In next episode, we are going to organize our files better. I see you in next episode. In this episode 4, we will implement a different folder structure. Open the episode 4 source code, and you will see we have a new folder components, and inside it we have a card folder which contains all the files related to card. So what we did, if you open the previous folder episode 3, you see we have the single card, but here we have the components folder. Inside it we have the card component, and we have these many files just for the card. And now why we created all these files. So if you open the card.jsx file, you will see that the card we have divided into 3 subcomponents. Now if you look at this visual presentation of the card, it has this header, then the body, then footer. You see we have divided this card into 3 separate subcomponents. So it becomes very easy for us to identify where the header is, body or footer. And the important thing is, let's say you want to change the add to cart button to an icon. Now if you look at the previous code, you will see, okay, where is the footer? You will scroll up, scroll down, you will find the footer. This is just like around 43 lines of code. But if you have 100 lines of code, it becomes a little bit difficult for you to find this footer and then change it. But if you look at this implementation, the subcomponent, you want to change the card footer, you go to the component folder card, and inside the card you will immediately see, okay, this is the footer. You open it, you see only UI elements related to footer. You don't see the complete card, you see a very sub-component of this card component. So it becomes very easy for you to maintain it and update it. Now this is just like around 21 lines, but what if you have a card which has a 500 of lines? You don't want to put everything in just one file. That's why we create sub-components, and the sub-components help us to organize our components better, and it helps us to easily update or modify our code later. So what we did, we just created the multiple files. We created card header, card body or card footer. Then we added here. So it becomes very easy for us to maintain it. Now you see we have one more file, index.js file. In here we are exporting the card header and card body again. So here we are exporting default card, then we are exporting as a name, card header, card body and card footer. Now why this is important? Open the app.jsx file. Here you see we have the import card, and we have all these 3 import as well. Let's say we want to import the card header individually, and then we want to render it. So if we don't have this file, you will have to import it 4 times. One for the card, one for the card header, one for the card footer, and one for card body. So to import all these 4 components, you have to have 4 imports. And let's say you have 10 other components, then each components will have subcomponents, then you import all of them if you want to have a different UI. So to reduce the number of imports, we can simply have one single file where we export all these things, and whenever we need, we just use one import, and in the one import we can import whatever we need from that particular file. So this helps us to reduce the number of lines when you want to import a component or a small part of the component. So in this video, we have created a subcomponent, the components folder, and we divided our card into subcomponents. Now if you look at this episode 4 code and episode 3, you can see there is a big difference, and you can clearly identify what is the body of the card, header or footer. But here you have to open it, scroll it, and see where is the header, footer or the body. So it becomes very easy when we maintain our components like this. In next episode, we will implement the state. Why? Because right now our card does not have any state. If I want to select the card, I don't have any state which will handle the selection of the card. So in next episode, we will implement our dynamic functionality for the card. I see you in next episode. Welcome to episode 5. Today we will implement state for our card. Open the episode 5 code, open the components and open card.jsx file. Inside it you will see we have added a state to select a card. So we have the state in here, we have the click handler. So whenever we click on the card, we update the state. So if it is false, it will become true. If it is true, it becomes false. And based on this value, we are adding the class. You see here we are adding the modifier. So card -- selected. So it is very easy to identify, oh, okay, so this is the variant of this card. So using the modifier, we can create a variant of the block. So if it is selected, we add this class. If it is not selected, we remove the class. So when we select the state, we add the card selected class. Now let's open this in our browser. If it is already running, yeah, it's running. If we click on the card, it is selected. We click again, it is deselected. So this state we added, it is a local state to this card, and it is handling the selection and deselection of the card. Now, whenever you write a state for a particular component, always try to make it local first. First, you should add the local state, and if you feel that you have to move state to the higher components, only then move the state. But always start with local state first. So when you write a state for a particular component, always add a local state first. Here in this episode, we added the local state, but as we move forward, in upcoming episode, you will see why we need to move this state from local to the parent, because there will be a solid reason for that. But for now, let's keep the state local, and when we need it, we will move it, we will lift it to the parent state where it is required. So this is it in this episode. I will see you next episode where we will implement the context API for multi-theme. I see you in next episode. Welcome to episode 6. In this episode, you will see how we will implement context API for multi-theme. Open episode 6 source code. You will see we have one more file, theme context.jsx. Open it. Inside it, we have two functions. One is the theme provider, and second is like this is our component, and second is a custom hook. So what we did, we imported the create context from React, and then we created a theme context. And inside the theme provider component, we created a state, we added the default value, the light, and we have a method to change the theme when we click on, like this is a method, we will call this method when we click on the button. Then we have the use effect hook. Now this is important because when the theme provider loads, it will read value from this attribute data theme, and then it will read that value and update value using this state. And as theme changes, it will update this value, and whenever this update the value, you will see immediately the CSS variables will reflect the design tokens that we implemented. You will see all this in action in just few minutes. Let's just understand code first. Here we have this theme context.provider, and inside it we have the children, and this provider, it has this value. Now this value is important because here we are passing an object with two values, the theme and the toggle theme method. Now you can add as many value as you want. If you want to add a list, you can just say list. If you want to have the form data, you can provide the form data here. So you can provide all the values in here. Now how we will access these values? For that, we created a custom hook. The custom hook calls a use context from React, and we are providing the context to this use context hook. So use context hook is React hook, and this hook expect a context that we created here. We pass it, and when we pass this returns the value, this object it will return. So here we have the context. If we don't find it, we will throw an error, but if we find it, we will return the context. So all these values, this object will be accessible when we use this use theme custom hook. Now open the app.jsx file. So if you open the app.jsx file, you will see that we have imported the use theme custom hook, and when we use this, it gives us access to both the value that we have defined in our theme context. So the theme and the toggle theme, that this is object, and we access it using object destructuring in here. So we have access to the theme and the toggle theme method. Now we scroll down, you will see a button. When we click on the button, it will toggle the theme, and it will just display based on the theme. It will display it's a dark theme or the light theme. And let's see it in action. If you did not open the project in the browser, open it. So I have here it open. If you click this button, see, if I click on the dark, it becomes dark. If I click on the light, it becomes light. Now inspect this page, and you will see that in our HTML tag, we have data-theme light. And if I click on it, it makes it dark. So see how this is working. Go back to the theme context. You see here document element, we are setting the attribute name is data theme. You see it here, this is the attribute name, and the value is whatever value we have it here. So if we click on the toggle theme, it changes the value light to dark or dark to light. So let's go back to here and click here. You see, if I click here, it makes it light, makes it dark. Now how the color changes, let's say if I click on the light, you see it here. If I click on it here, you see we have the root colors in here, but if I click on dark, you see these values are being applied first. Now from where these values are coming, go to the tokens.css. Inside it, you will see we define all these variables in our episode 2, where we define the tokens. But in this episode, we have defined all these values. So what we did, here we define the attribute, and the attribute value is dark. Then we want our browser to access all these values. So when you click on the button, it will change the attribute. Now when this attribute matches this property here, the browser will automatically pick all these values. So if it is dark, these values comes first, and these values will be used. And you see here all these values are overridden by these values. Why? Because we have added a condition that if the attribute value is dark, please use these values, and browser will read these values from our CSS. And as we change dark to light, it will change value back to the light. So this is how our theme is working. Now you see the tokens, how they are important, because we just define these tokens by default. But when we need a new theme, what we do, we just define an attribute and the value. Based on the value, we define the variables. These variables are the same, we just change the value. So this is how we implement multi-theme. So if you want to implement the red theme, blue theme, you can just do like this. Copy and paste, change here, let's say blue, and then you can change the color in here, and you go back to the theme. Here we have dark and light. You can implement a logic how to have switch between dark, light or blue theme. This we will implement in our upcoming episode, but for now I'm just showing you how we will do it. So this is how we will create multi-theme for our project. And in this video, you just understood that how we use the context API. Now, context API is just not for the theming. You can create the context for any value. We created for the theme. You can create or you can add more values. Let's say I want to have a list here, or I want to have the data. So what you do, whatever you want to have access your app. So I did not show you the theme provider. So for theme provider, open the main.jsx file. You see here we have a theme provider, and we are wrapping our app inside theme provider. So when we do this, everything inside our theme provider will have access to these values. So we define these values, we wrapped our app inside the theme provider, and when we want to access it, we go to the app, we use the custom hook and we access the value. So it makes it easy to access value across our app anywhere in any component. Now let's say you want to access the list, you just add the list value in here, go to the app, you just say I want the list, you have the access to the list. If you want to have access list to the components, go to the component and import this hook and use it like this, and you will have access to that particular value. So this is our context API. Context API gives us ability to create a context or a state in a single place, and then we can access it anywhere in our project. So in this episode, we implemented the multi-theme using context API, and we access the values using the custom hook. So inside app.jsx, we use this theme, toggle theme, and for the button, we just directly uses this method that we define in our theme context file. And based on this, we implemented our dark and light theme. And you also understood why the tokens are important, because with the tokens, we can easily create multi-theme, or we can change the values with just one click. Now, if you compare this code with episode 1 code, you see here we have the hard-coded values. Now, imagine if you just keep doing like this and your client say, I need multi-theme, then how you implement the multi-theme? You go and check what is the value in the attribute. Then based on this, you change value in here, like in all the places you will have to add condition. But if your project architecture is clean like this, it becomes very easy. You just define the multiple tokens for different theme, and just one click, you can change the theme from light to dark or any other theme. This is how we implement the theme. And along with that, you can create the data that you can share across your app using the context API. So this is it in this episode. We implemented the context API and the multi-theming, but there is still problem in our app. You see, we have the card component where we implemented card header, card body, and card footer. But this is not a fully composable component. We created the sub component, but our component, the card component, is not fully composable. It is not completely flexible. Let's say if I want to move body above header, I cannot do it, because in our card.jsx file, we have defined this is the order. If I want to change the order, I cannot change the order because our component is not designed for that. In next episode, we will fix this problem with composition. I see you in next episode. In this episode, we will create a fully flexible component. Open the episode 7, and inside it, open the card component. And if you see the card component, we have changed the implementation. Now let's compare it with the previous implementation. If you open this one in card, you see we have a sub component, but we have hard coded these values inside our card component. But in this episode, we are changing this. We are making it more flexible. So what we did not hard coded all the values, all the header, body or footer. We just say the children. We have the div, inside it we will render all the children, and the header, body and footer, we have attached these 3 sub components on the card. So the card, you can access the header using the card.header, card.body or card.footer. Now this will become very flexible for us. Now open the app.jsx file. Inside it we have the card. So what are we doing here? We say this is my card, this is my card, and we are adding the card.header and we are passing some value to it. So we say this is my card, inside it I want the header, then I want body and I want footer. So we are deciding the order. But if you check the previous implementation, go to the app.jsx. In here you will say I have the card and I am passing these props. Now here you cannot decide the order of any subcomponent. But in here, let's say I want to move this card body after the footer, I can just move it here. If I save it, see, I have the header first. This is header, then I have the footer, and then I have the body, which is premium running shoes. See, I can change the order, and if I want, I can simply delete it. I don't want it, or I can delete the header as well. I just want the footer. So the footer is rendering. Now, again, compare it with the previous implementation. In the previous implementation, it was not possible to conditionally change the order of your subcomponent, but in here I can change the order however I want, and I can delete whatever I want. So it becomes very flexible for our component to compose. So the card component, we are composing however we want. And let's say let's go back to the previous implementation. In here, if you check the card, we don't have anything. We just have option to render header, body and footer. But in here, we say children. Whatever inside it, we will render. Now go to the body, it has the children. Go to the footer, it has children. Go to the header, it has children and the page. Now why this becomes important? Open the app.jsx again. In here you will see that we have this header and we are passing the children. But if we compare it with the previous implementation, you will see that we have to pass a prop and a value. We cannot pass the children. So if you want to render some p tag or a button, you don't have option to render that. But in this implementation, we have complete flexibility. Now let's say after the header, I want to have a h1 heading. I say I need h1 heading. This is new heading. You save it. You see, after the header, we have the heading. Now it becomes very flexible for us however we want this card to render. We are composing on the fly. So if I want it, I add it. If I don't, I remove it. So this composition makes our card very easy. And this same composition is implemented by the Material UI or Redux UI. If you search for the Material UI, you will see they have implemented like this. You can change the order. If you want, you can render it. If you don't want to render it. So this makes our component completely flexible and we have complete control of our component. So what you learn that the component should not be fixed in the UI like we have in our previous implementation. We say first will come header, then body, then footer, but no. Now we decide how we want to render our component and what we want to render inside it. So with this implementation, what we did, we created the card component and we attached all the components on the card. And we can access it using the card.header, body or footer. And we added the children. So now whatever inside the card, it will render. It does not care about header, footer or body, anything. It will just render it. And same for the body. So body has children. Whatever inside it, it will just render it. Same for footer. We have the children. We have add to cart button. It will work. Same for header. So we made it very flexible for our card component to render any UI we want. So this is how we create a composable components. This is it in this episode. I will see you next episode where we will handle the events for our components. Welcome to episode 8. In previous episode, we made our component more flexible. In this episode, we will make events more flexible. So open the episode 8. Inside it, open card.jsx file. So in here, we have the handle click. So if you open the previous implementation, you will see we have the handle click. This is handling only the local state. So when we click it, it will update the is selected value. But in this implementation, we are handling the internal logic, but we have a external callback. So what we did, we have passed one more parameter on click and we are handling it here. So we check if we have the on click, this check, it will check if we pass the on click, only then it will call this method with these two parameters, the event and this object. Now this card, if you open the app.jsx, In here we have the card on click handler. We are passing this handle card click here. So we are passing this handle card click and we are expecting two values. First is the event, second is the data. And in here, if you open the card, you will see we have the on click and here we are handling the click. Now here the naming also matters. So open the app.jsx, you will see that we have the on click and then we are passing the handle card click. See this naming, the on click and handle click. Why this is important? This is important, like if you follow this same naming convention and if you want to search how many on click props you have for a particular component, you just search for on click. But if you change this naming convention, let's say handling card click and then passing the card click handler, it will become very difficult for you to check if it is handling a card click or it is a different method. So whenever you add a prop, make sure it names properly. So if we are handling the click, we say on click and then we pass the handler which starts with handle name. So on means it is some kind of click and we have the handle, we are handling that particular event. So on click, we are passing handle card click and then inside our card.jsx file, first we check if this method is there or not. This question mark, it will check if this is available or not. If it is not, it will not call this method. If it is, then it will call this method and it will pass these two parameters. Now always remember, whenever you have a method inside some handle click, always pass this event back to that callback method. Why? Because you never know what you want to access. So this handle click, it is on this div and this is an external handler. So let's say our external handler in our that app.jsx file, in here it wants to access that particular card. So this event in here, when we click on this, this is we can access it using the event.target. So we can say event.target, this div is our target. But if you don't pass this event, you will never have that accessibility to access that particular event. So remember, always pass the event to the callback. And here we are passing the value as well. So whatever, if the value is selected or not, if the card is selected, it will be true. If it is not, it will be false. And we will have access to the local state inside our app. So whenever you pass a handler to the child, always pass the event and pass as much as data as you can. So our parent has full access to the child. And this is for the card. And if you open the footer, you will see here. Now let's compare the footer with the previous footer. In the previous implementation, we had the add to card. We are directly calling. We don't have any check here. If you don't pass this, if you open the app.jsx, we are passing the add to cart. But what if you don't want to add to cart? You just want footer, but you don't want add to cart button. That time this will fail. It will throw an error. Add to cart is not a function. So in this implementation, we are adding a check in here, add to cart. If it is there, only then we call it and we are passing the event back. In the previous implementation, we did not pass the event, but now we are passing the event. We are adding the check. This is how we properly handle an event. Now this e.stop propagation, what it will do? If we don't have this one, let me just comment it out. If we don't have this one, see, if I click on the card, it select the card. If I click again, it deselect the card. Now if I click on this add to cart button, it opens the added to the cart, okay, and it select the card. Because we are not stopping the event propagation, because whenever you click on anywhere on the DOM, that click bubble ups to the root element. Now if I add it back here, save it, and let's refresh the page. If I click the card, it is selected. If I click again, it is deselected. Now if I click on the add to cart button, the card will not be selected. Click it here, you see card is not selected. But if we don't have this one, it will interfere in our card click. So if you have multiple click handlers inside, let's say this is a card, inside it we have one more click handler and you don't want to trigger the card click, you add e.stop propagation. This way you can just stop the event bubbling up to the root element and it will only trigger the add to card button click, not the card click, even it is inside the card. So this is how you should handle the events. So remember, always have these events name start with the on. On means there is some event, and the handler, whoever handles that click, always start with the handle. So this way you have a really clear mental model that if it start with the on, it is an event, and if it starts with the handle, it is the handler for that particular event. So this makes very clear mental model for your project, and if someone joins it, they immediately know that this on click, it means it is a event. It can be on hover. If it start with on, they will immediately know it is some kind of event, and if it start with the handle, it is a handler for that particular event. So this way you can make your project or your code very readable and easy to understand. So in this episode, we understand the event handlers and how to implement better events, but we are not done yet. In next episode, we will see why we should lift state from child to parent. I see you in next episode. Welcome to episode 9. Open the episode 9 source code. Inside it, go to the card.jsx. In here, you will see we have added few more things. I have added the isSelected prop and onSelect change handler. Now, why we have implemented it, you will see in few minutes. So first, let's understand the code. Here we have the internal state of the card. Then we have a check in here for the parent management. So let's say this check here, it will check if we pass some props. That means our parent wants to handle the state. And in here, inside our handle click, we check if parents wants to manage the state. We use like if parent does not want to manage the state, we call the local state. And if our parents wants to manage the state, we will call the parent method and we will pass the value to it. And this is our external click from the previous implementation. It stays same. Now, why this is important? Open the app. You will see that we have counter here, and let's say on the app we want to display selected card. If I click on this card, I want to select the counter here. So one card selected, two cards selected. So this functionality we want to display number of cards selected. Now if I click on third one, it will not work because we don't want parent to manage this card click. We just want first two card. If we click on those cards, we want to display number of cards selected. Now this is a card and this is a counter. These two are inside our app. So open the app.jsx file. We have these cards in here, and if you scroll up, let's see where it is. Okay, it is right next to the button. So we have button in here. Yeah, here we have the counter. So this counter is outside our card component. This card and the counter inside our app. So if we don't have access to the selected card, we will never be able to display the counter outside the card component. So this is where we lift the state, because if we don't have access to the card click, we cannot display the counter in here. So for that reason, we need to lift the state from local card and give access back to the parent. So to access our child component state, or like we want to display the number of cards selected, the counter, and this counter is not inside the card, it is outside the card. So this is a solid reason to add accessible for the parent, like parents should be have accessibility, or like parents should be able to access the state of the card. Now how we implement it, this is how we are implemented. We are passing two props here, is selected and on selection change. Now open the app.jsx file again. Inside it we have the card and we are passing these props. So handle click is already there. We have passed is selected and on select change. So if you see here, for first and the second card we have passed these two props. For third one we did not, because we don't want third to include in our counter. So what we did, we say it's selected prop. Yes, we have passed it here, and we have passed the handler when we click on that particular card. So here we are passing these two attributes. One, it will return true or false. Second is the select change handler. Now if you go back to the card.jsx file, in here we are detecting if parents wants to manage the state or not. So what we are doing it here, we are checking if we have passed the prop, then we check is selected, like it will come from the parent or not. And in here we check if it is not parent managed, we will update the state. If it is a parent managed, we will pass value back to the handler that is passed by the parent. So in here, when we click on select change, it will receive a selected. This value will come from here, whatever we have selected, and then it will call the handle card click. It is taking two values, the card name, which is a airport, and second is the selected or not. So if we go back to this method in here, it will check the ID and the selected, and if it is selected, if it is true, then it will add that card to the array that we define it here. And if it is not, it will filter out that card from the array. So if we click, so let's say we refresh the page, I click on this card, it is selected, I click on again, it is deselected. So you see this card is managed by parents, but this card, it is a local state. So what we did, we kept our local state, but we also gave access to the parent to manage the state. So for these two cards, the state is managed by parent, but for the last one, this is a local state managed by the card itself. So this is how you can make the state very flexible. You can give access to the parent if you want, and if you don't want, you just don't pass the parameter, so parent don't have access to the local state. So this way you can handle the events, and you can make it very flexible for handling all these events. Like your parents wants to handle it, let it handle. If don't, the default goes to the card itself. So this is how we implement our parent managed or local to the card. So local state or parent state. Now this is it in this episode. I will see you next episode. Welcome to last episode. Open the episode 10 code, and inside it you will see we have few folders. I have created pages, store and style folder. Now compare with the previous one. So we had these tokens and theme context outside. Now we created a folder. Why? Let's say we have multiple styles file, so we can put all the CSS, all the style related files inside one folder. It manages all the files in just one single place. And for the store, right now we just have theme.context file. Let's say you want to implement some different functionality for the store, for our context, for theme, like anything related to the store will go inside the store folder. And for the pages, let's say you are creating the pages for the home page, for the about page, product page, all those pages you can create inside the pages folder. So right now I just created a dummy page, the home page, and we created again the index.js file here, so we can export this here, and it becomes very easy when we import the home page in our app. So if you creating a new page, just create inside the pages folder, so it becomes easy to manage your all the code for the pages, for page related. And for the components, it's the same, there is no change. Now for the advanced theming, like we want to implement multi-theme, so I have run this inside the browser. You see we have multi-theming in here. So how we implemented multi-theme, let's see. Open the theme context file, scroll up, and you will see I have defined an array of themes. So I have defined 4 themes in here. Now open the style file. In here, last time if you remember, we defined the dark theme, but this time we defined 2 more themes. midnight and sepia. We define two more themes. Now you see how easy it is. Just define a new theme and add and just override the value and your theme is ready. You don't have to do anything extra. It becomes very easy to create a new theme. Now we created all these themes. Back to the theme context. In here we define like we have or four themes, and in here we are using the like if you go back to our previous one, we had this default value light, but in here we have this method inside our state. When we use a method to initialize the value, this is called lazy initialization. So what it will do, the use state will call this method and it will return a value. So in here what we are doing, we are checking the local storage first. If we have a saved theme and that theme is inside our array of themes, then we return that saved theme. So if I click on here, this theme is now saved, and if I refresh it, it stays there because we have check here. If I have saved theme, just return that theme. Now if we don't have any theme, go and check the Windows preference. So if the window preference is black, like the dark, then return the dark, else return light. So this is how we initialize lazy initialize for a theme value. Now in here we have few methods. We'll come to those later. Now go to the provider. Last time you saw that we only providing two values. Now we are providing four values: set specific themes and available themes. Now open the app.jsx file, come in here, and you will see that the hook, we are accessing all these values, set specific theme and available themes. And what we are doing it here. So if you scroll down, we have here available themes. So we are rendering all these themes in here. The theme name, so let me set it light. All these themes names, these are coming from available themes. So we are using the map and we are rendering all the buttons for each theme. So we have the light, dark, midnight and sepia. This is how it's being rendered. And we have this set specific theme. So we are calling this handler set specific theme from the app.jsx because we have access using our custom hook, and we are calling this method for each button and we are updating the theme. So if I click on midnight, it becomes midnight. So open the context file again. So first we initialize our default theme. First we read the local storage. If it is not, then we go and check the window preference. If it is not, then we return by default light theme. And here we have the toggle theme. We just click on the button and it will just toggle the theme, but we don't use it anymore because we are using the specific theme. Let's check if we are using it here or not. We are passing it here. Go to the app, and you see we are not using it anymore because we had this functionality previously because we just had two themes, but now we have multiple themes. So we created a new method which will handle the theme. So we created set a specific theme and it will update the theme in here. And in here what we are doing, when the component will first time render, it will be depending on the theme. So as soon as we have the theme value, it will set that value inside the local storage, and when we have the value, it will also update the attribute in the DOM. So if we inspect it again, you see this value, this will be updated using this use effect hook. Now in here we have a special use effect. Why? Because we are adding a handle change on the window. Now let me show you how it is working. So I will just close this one, make it light, refresh the page. Now I will remove this line here to show you what it means. So I just save it. Now I will open my Windows settings. By default I have a dark. Let me make it light. There is no change because we already have the light theme in here. Now see, if I change it to the dark, you will see this page or theme will automatically convert to the dark. If I click on the dark, you see it automatically get converted to the dark. Now if I make it light, it goes light. If I just make it dark back, it becomes dark. How this is happening? This is happening because of this handle change. So we are accessing the match. So using the match media, we are accessing the whatever preference our system has, and we are adding an event listener whenever there is a change. So if we don't add this line, it will immediately work when we change the theme. But we need this because we have the preferences as well. So our local storage will have the value, and if we don't have the value, only then this toggle from the system will work. Otherwise it will go back to this local storage and it will read the value there. So this is very important. This is how we are reading our system preference and we are updating our theme as we change. So you saw how we have implemented the multi-theme very easily because we had everything in place, and importantly we had the tokens. With the tokens we just implemented 4 themes with just few lines of code. And you also see that we have created different folder for different files because this is how we manage the code. Now if you look at the previous one, you see we have only components and then all the files there. We don't have any, like if we just look at this, you cannot identify where the store or where the CSS. Let's say if you have 3 or 4 more CSS files, you will keep adding in here, but it is better that we create a folder and put all the things related to CSS in single folder. Same for the pages. If you have 100 of pages, just put it there inside the page folder. And if you look at the store, you can manage your store for your app in just one place. Now let's compare our episode 10 code with episode 1. We started with episode 1, everything is there, but in here we have very maintainable code. We have every single thing managed. And if you look at the card, it was everything hard coded. You cannot rearrange the order for the footer or for header. But in here, if you open the card, this card does not care about what it renders. All it care is it will render anything. And using this composable API, you can change the order of header, footer or body, or if you want to add some extra HTML, you can just add it and it will work. So this is how we create a architecture for any component. And this architecture, now let's say I ask you go and update the card header. You will open the card, you will just go to the header only. You will not go to the footer, body or card, because you know this is very clean. If you just look at the file, you say, yeah, this is the header, this is where I change. So it becomes very easy. Now, if a new developer joins your team, you just give him the code and 80% of code, he will just understand it because you have very good architecture. That is why UI architecture is important. So if you learn this and you implement this, you will see how significantly this improves your code base, and it will help you to maintain your code base or add any feature or update it or find a bug and fix. It will help you there. So you saw where we started and where we ended. We implemented the composable API for the card. We implemented the context API. We implemented the multi-theme. We implemented the event handling with the condition, like if we want to let children handle the state, it will handle. If we want to take the control inside parent, we will just pass 2 flags and the parent will have control of the state. You see how easy it has becomes. So this is how you can create a better UI architecture. So this is it in this course, and I hope you have learned a lot and you will implement in your next project or your existing project. And I see you in next course.